Ketchup, and you're listening to Silph Radio.
This is Silph Radio, a Pokemon-centered podcast. I'm Nathan K, and every episode we delve way too deep into a different aspect of the Pokemon universe. Be it a character, a Pokemon, a game, a anime, a card. We haven't done an episode about a specific card yet. That'll be a first when we do a whole episode about one card from the Pokemon game. Today, we're gonna be doing something a little unexpected, I guess, if you're a regular listener. I promised a trilogy of episodes about crime and punishment. We've already talked about Team Aqua and Officer Jenny. Next on the lineup, if you listened all the way to the end last time, was Looker. Justin Addison was going to return to discuss the international police agent and master of disguise, Looker. However, that's not going to be happening today. It was a little tough scheduling that, so I figured why make you guys wait another 3 months for another episode of Silph Radio. We will do the Looker episode in the future, but today we're bringing back my good friend
Briana Joy
to discuss the newest Pokemon movie.
Pokemon the movie, I Choose You.
The 20th Pokemon movie, right? Or is it?
It is the 20th.
And it's the 20th anniversary. So they've done one a year?
I think so. Yeah, if you think about it, they did each, character reset lasts, 3 years, and they do, 2 or 3 movies for each of those. So, yeah, I think it's about a movie a year.
Character reset, meaning, when Ash goes to a new region and gets new friends?
Yeah, I just call it a character reset, because, new friends, bye!
Ash is the opposite of Drake. First of all, spoiler alert, obviously, we're going to cover the hell out of this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it, or at least be comfortable with us spoiling the shit out of it for you.
Please watch this movie. I'm not kidding. It changed my life. You need to watch it.
Changed your life?
Yes, it did. I have watched it 3 times now. I've cried every time, and it's amazing. I honestly, I'm sure you and I have very different feelings about this movie, but me personally, I loved it.
I wouldn't say this movie changed my life, but I will say that it did rekindle a few feelings which changed my life about 20 years ago. This movie is, of course, a reboot, sort of like they did it with Dragon Ball, where they're just like, you know what, screw it, let's just start from the beginning and tell the TV show as a movie. But it's also its own story. It just kind of reestablishes the beginning of Ash's journey and changes details. It's an adaptation. So in this, Silph Radio tradition now of, hey, they've established that there's a multiverse in this Pokemon world, so there's different universes that different versions of these characters come from. This is sort of just another pocket universe where a different version of Ash went on a different adventure.
And you notice a lot of changes, not only in the storyline itself, but in the personalities of the Pokemon and the characters. You definitely can tell it's a multiverse just because it's so different yet similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and this actually, what you were just saying about the character resets, maybe that's another explanation for why Ash is always forgetting shit or not remembering, what Pokemon is that? It's a fucking Krabby, Nimrod, is because the episodes all might not take place in the same pocket universe. Much like a lot of Rick and Morty fans theorize that certain episodes might just be in a completely different universe for no reason. Like the Mr. Poopy Butthole episode, they jumped universe. I don't know if you watch Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Rick and Morty just likes to fuck with their fans because the guys that wrote the show are really fucking smart, and they like purposely made the show for dumb people, but the show itself is smart if you pay attention. But they are marketing the fuck out of dumb people, and it's so smart on their behalf.
It's really smart. I call the show smart because it's super smart writing, in my opinion. And recently I've seen a lot of things on Facebook like, come on, Rick and Morty fans, the show's not as smart as you think. Like, okay, we're not saying that it's groundbreaking science. It doesn't do anything like Futurama does, where they actually create new equations for the purpose of a chalkboard in the background and then win a mathematical award for creating something no one's created before. They don't do anything like that, but it's incredibly smart writing. Like, as a writer, Dan Harmon is a phenomenal writer, I've got to say. Like, especially with how rigidly he sticks to a framework. He's obsessed with the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell.
Well, the writing in this movie, the one that we're actually talking about, I love how they actually took a new road. They have done something they haven't necessarily done before with any of the other Pokemon movies. They actually gave the story more of a narrative. It's not all about, this big boss legendary Pokemon that just like gets pissed off and tries to fuck up the world. It's not about saving the world. The story is about a relationship between two characters. And I love how it's something that Pokemon hasn't done before.
It is about Ash and Pikachu, but there's also areas in which I think it falters because of that propensity for Pokemon to be, for the Pokemon movies and franchise and shows. Like, okay, Roger Ebert's criticism of Pokemon the first movie was like, what is this movie about? It's just about Pokemon. The message of this movie is you got to catch the Pokemon and battle the Pokemon. What the fuck they didn't take the world and craft a story that's about something from it. It's just, yeah, this movie's about Pokemon and learning more about the Pokemon because Pokemon are awesome and they're Pokemon. And that is a very fair criticism that a lot of Pokemon media is like that. And to a certain extent, that's okay. I mean, what is Lord of the Rings about? Oh, Lord of the Rings is about nationalism and racism. Well, what is Harry Potter about? It's just about indulging in this world. It's about indulging in this world. What are the Marvel movies about? They're just about indulging in these characters and having fun with it. So to a certain extent, I'm okay with that. But also as a writer, I believe you should be able to do both.
Right.
Right. Yes.
As much as I do love the movie, I will probably agree with you on a few points. Just the fact that they could have done things differently. Because I could tell kind of toward the end, and we'll get into it, I kind of feel like they kind of went back to, okay, this is still marketing. We have to like put the new Pokemon in. We have to like kind of make it about that. And that's where it got a little choppy for me. But, we'll get into that later in the episode.
So yeah, then let's just jump right in. We're going to sort of try our best to go through the movie narratively, no promises, and recount and give our impressions and thoughts. As if you didn't know that. What the fuck? You've never listened to a podcast before?
Have you ever listened to our podcast before where we go off on tangents? Well, if you haven't, sit back and enjoy because we're going to have a great fucking time today.
Actually, this episode's a little different. Me and Briana are just going to sit back and stream the entire audio of the movie. So this is the last episode of Silph Radio.
And then not the best idea. As much as I would love to, we don't. Oh yeah, disclaimer: we don't own Pokemon. Shit.
Nope. We own a lot of Pokemon products and a lot of Pokemon merchandise, but we do not own the merchandising rights. So
we can't play the movie, but we can talk about it, and that's what we're gonna do.
So let's jump in. It starts up with this beautiful opening scene of a Pidgey flying down this stream up upon this Pokemon stadium where Corey and Nisha, actually, from the Pokemon the first movie, are battling their Blastoise versus Gengar.
Yep. And it's funny because, like, I was trying to, when I was watching, I'm like, those characters look really familiar. And I had to look it up today. And I'm like, oh my God, that's where I've seen them from. And I just thought it was really cool how they kind of like threw those little cameos in there. Like they're referencing, the first movie. And I thought that was kind of cool. And I like how they kind of begin the same too. It all begins with Ash watching this battle on TV. And, right off the bat, you can see the animation is like incredible.
Yeah,
like,
It is a really fun scene, and I mean, honestly, I really liked the Pidgey flying down the stream even more than I liked the Pokemon battle. Just that's where this movie shines to me the most, is the scenery. Oh my god, the setting. They get it right.
The coloring and the music too is just amazing.
Yeah, the music is very cinematic. Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. I love the design of Pallet Town. The poster on Ash's wall is the same one he had in the first episode. I didn't go back and watch the first episode. I just knew right when I saw it.
I actually went back this morning and watched the first episode, and a lot of things were very similar. You know, just to kind of try to remember what the differences were, because you know it's not going to be exactly the same. But I really like the way they did it in the movie.
Yeah, the first 10, 15 minutes are basically just the first episode. It's honestly like almost the same length. It's a little less, like maybe 3/4 the length of the first episode.
It's the first episode and fast forward, basically.
Yeah, minus Gary. They just cut Gary out.
So right off the bat, you can tell that Professor Oak is more chill in this version. You know, he was kind of a dick in the original episode. Like, he let Ash, like go to each ball, and he's like, I'm just gonna sit back. No, but like he actually like flat out said, okay, this is what's up, this is what's going on, you know, you kind of fucked up, bro, but like, you know, we got another one for you. And another thing I noticed too, Pikachu wasn't initially in the ball in the movie. It was just kind of running around his lab. Oh
yeah, he did have it in the Pokeball in the show, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and for the first time, we do see Gary when he's saying, like, I want Charmander, it's already been taken. You see, for the first time, you see glimpses of the two other palette trainers.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I checked the episode and the movie, and the order is the same. Ash wants Squirtle first, and then it shows Gary, the back of Gary's head, shows Gary choosing Squirtle. And then he's like, okay, Bulbasaur. And I kind of recognized the back of the girl's head in the shot, and I had to look it up. But it's actually, the character's name is Marina.
Wait a minute.
From the episode Bye Bye Psyduck.
So you're talking about the movie now?
Yes.
The order's the same as it was in the show, but you don't see the trainers in the show.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So wait, that was an actual character from the show?
Yes, the back of their heads. And I recognized the trainer that was taking the Charmander was Tierno.
So wait, who was the one taking the Bulbasaur?
Marina. She's a character from an episode called Bye Bye Psyduck.
What happens in that episode? Is that an older episode or a newer episode?
Yeah, it's an older episode. I was reading the description because it's been a while for me too. It's an episode where Misty is battling this water Pokemon trainer, and Psyduck's tail turns pink. And this trainer, Marina, that they meet is like, oh, Psyduck's going to evolve soon. And there was like a mix-up, and Misty ended up battling with her Golduck. And the episode, like, Misty thought Psyduck evolved, but it didn't. So she was from that episode.
Okay.
It was kind of a random character to throw in there, but, you know, it's fine. But I did recognize Gary and Tierno.
Who's Tierno?
It's funny, too, because the Pokemon that he chose isn't exactly accurate. I mean, if you're going for, like, the other timeline with Pokemon, Tierno has a Squirtle in the episodes for the X and Y series. So he chose the Charmander in this universe, which is cool, you know.
Who's that? Who is Tierno?
Pokemon trainer chooses a grass type. So, like, I don't know. I just kind of feel like they threw Pokemon trainers in there for cameos, and, like, they don't want us to read too much into it, but guess what we're doing?
So who is, it's a she or a he?
Tierno is a he. He's a character from the X and Y series. He's one of your companions in the game. He's kind of a heavier set guy. He loves to dance.
I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah, he looks...
He's got like a weird little hairstyle. It's like spiky, and like the sides of his head are bald.
Yeah, okay, cool. I think I remember who you're talking about. That's super sweet. I love that. Although that doesn't make sense. Yeah, why would he come from Pallet? It's a pocket universe.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've got, you know, the trainers from the first movie battling each other, you know, whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, the beginning is really nostalgic, if slightly lazy. Seeing Ash, Pikachu, and Caterpie together again was so satisfying. Like,
I really enjoy how they had like the opening song, and it was honestly beautifully done.
Yes, for the first time, they finally realized if you want to make the song more epic, for the movie or for the new saga or season, don't fucking change it. Like, granted, it wasn't updated, newly recorded, remastered, like, not remixed like remix, but like it was mixed better, I guess. So they did go in and redo the song, but hitting all the same notes, performing it in the same way that it originally was. Like, every time they've tried to redo that song for a different movie or season, it never lives up to that original.
Right.
But yeah, I loved all the scenes they were showing of Ash and Pikachu and Caterpie,
right.
Like Ash, Pikachu, and Caterpie sitting there and they see the Butterfree and like Caterpie gets all wistful and like, oh, I love it. It takes me back to the way that I always imagined these journeys would be.
They show bits and pieces of the adventure, and I love that.
Yeah, it's seeing Ash alone with his Pokemon, not walking with Misty and Brock, just walking down.
Right.
You see them in profile walking while the narrator says something, and then they meet the character for this episode. And this was a lot more like, here's the minutia and the everyday life of a Pokemon trainer.
Right. And, it's very similar to the episode itself. Even before the opening credits, the situation with the Spearow and how they're being chased. Like, I love how they even had the Gyarados, in the scene, just like they did in the original show, and instead of meeting Misty, they just jump right into the scene where it starts to rain and Ash stands up for Pikachu. And that visual of Pikachu, like, jumping up on Ash's shoulder, to defend him from the Spearows was amazing. And it was also interesting to hear the way the writers kind of translated it, because there's two different companies that have taken over the English version of Pokemon in the last 20 years. So what they say in the original episode is translated differently from what they say in the movie. So some of the things Ash says is very different, but it has the same feel to it. And it was interesting listening to the two different voice actors for Ash kind of trying to do the same scene. So that itself was fascinating for me.
I don't hate the voice cast. The voice of Ash isn't bad. I prefer Veronica Taylor, but I don't mind this new voice. Same thing for Jesse and James, Professor Oak, Delia. Like, none of their voices were that bad. It wasn't like in the episode that I saw Brock in that just made me want to die.
They have had 12 years to get their shit together, so I think they've improved quite a bit from where they started off. Because in the beginning, they were just hired for sound-alike. There wasn't as much put into it. But, like, Sarah Notaceni, she's the voice actor for Ash now. She's really stepped up her game for the emotion, because before Ash was kind of, like, monotone and emotionless, but, like, I can finally hear emotion in her voice for him, and it just sounds so much better than it used to. Granted, it's not Veronica Taylor. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if she actually did this movie? But, it's.
I'm sure the current voice cast would take that as a pretty big slap to the face, though.
Well, then again, Misty and Brock weren't even in this one, so.
Well, they're not in the show anymore either, right?
Right, exactly. So the main difference in this that actually progresses the story forward is when Ash sees Ho-Oh. And the difference between the movie and the anime, Ash actually is like, I'm going to meet that Pokemon. And the Rainbow Wing comes floating down from Ho-Oh. And just looks so beautiful. Like, I like the way it was, like, floating down. There was, like, a little bell.
Yeah, it was a beautiful scene. That scene did really take me back to being, like, in the days of wonder of, like, what is that Pokemon Ash saw? Before we knew what Ho-Oh was, and then I'd find it Googling, go back and listen to, I think it's episode 41, the Pokegods episode. But, yeah, that definitely took me back to those early days of the mystery and the wonder of Pokemon. And the director or whoever actually said that this alternate timeline or whatever is sort of what if Ash had gotten the Rainbow Wing from Ho-Oh.
Right, and it also, I believe there was also a fan theory about this, something very similar too. So I wonder if they acknowledged the fan theory and wrote off of that, or if they came up with the concept themselves. It's interesting to think about.
What's the fan theory?
Well, the fan theory was stating that Ho-Oh grants eternal happiness to any trainer that sees it. So the actual fan theory was, Ash's wish was to forever be on a journey because that's what made him happy. So maybe they were, taking pieces of that. Who knows?
Yeah. That's right. I've heard of that theory.
And another important note, too, because it actually happens again later in the movie, just the scene where Ash is like telling Pikachu, listen, you have to get inside the ball, you'll be protected. This is the only way I can protect you. And Pikachu refuses. Like I said, the animation in that scene is just phenomenal. You have the lightning crashing, the slow motion shot of Spearows coming in, and Ash just mess with me, you're going to lose. And, I am proud of who I am. I'm going to defeat you all at once. And Pikachu comes and saves the day. So an interesting thing I noticed, too, between the anime and the movie for this scene as well, is that Pikachu in the anime got struck by lightning and used that power to annihilate all the Spearows. But in this movie, Pikachu takes the power from itself to do that. So I don't know, because looking back, I always thought that maybe Pikachu was so strong because it got struck by lightning. You know what I mean? That was kind of my own theory with that.
That Ash's Pikachu wasn't just this naturally abnormally strong Pikachu, but it was that bolt of lightning that supercharged it in the first episode.
That's what I always thought. So I thought it was interesting that the power came from itself and wanting to protect its trainer.
That's amazing. Well, first of all, I love your theory, and that very well could be the case in, Ash Prime's universe. But in this one, it's not. They never make a big deal that it's some special Pikachu in this that's like super powerful. Like,
exactly.
It's just a normal Pikachu that happens to be Ash's friend. He is clearly a strong Pokemon. Ash comments, Pikachu would have won, but like. There's no like emphasis that Pikachu's like some super special Pikachu.
I'm so thankful that they kept this scene in there and they kept it the way it was, because no other way to see that would have perfectly encompassed the relationship between Ash and Pikachu, because that scene was when Pikachu and Ash finally started to see eye to eye and understand each other, and like, we are a team, this is what we have to do. And I'm so happy they kept it the way it was.
All right, so it was that scene, right?
Yes.
That scene was when Pikachu started and Ash started to see eye to eye. Let's just put a bookmark on that, tab that for later.
Sounds
Your
good.
words, not mine. That scene.
That scene, that specific scene. So after we have the opening credits, where they show little bits and pieces of their journey, they cut right to the third gym battle with Erica. And, watching it, I was kind of disappointed because I was hoping, because I knew Brock and Misty weren't going to be in the movie, it would have been really nice, though, just to see Ash battling them, or like some sort of cameo I would have been happy with. But, it was fine. I accepted it. So it cuts right to the scene with Erica.
That was probably a deliberate decision on their part to jump to the third gym leader just because it's not about Brock and Misty. And including, I was thinking as I was watching it, this is clearly going to be focusing on the relationship between Ash and Pikachu. And that's got to be why they didn't put Brock and Misty in it, because that's just distracting. But then they end up giving him 2 more traveling companions, but still.
Right. And I thought it was interesting, too, that they gave him the rainbow badge. So I don't know if they did that on purpose to make, you know what I mean? Like, the movie is very much about the rainbow wing. And, we'll find out later on in the podcast and the movie, Ash is considered the rainbow hero. And we'll discuss more of that later. But I just thought that was interesting that they specifically were like, here's the rainbow badge. Hey, we're foreshadowing something about rainbows. Yay.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, it in your face, making it obvious.
That is, I never really picked up on that. That's great. And
that's what you get when you watch it 3 times and cry every time. So, you start paying attention to the little details.
Yeah, you didn't notice that detail until the third time because you had too many tears in your eyes the first 2 times to pick up on minor details.
I think I was drunk the third time, to be honest with you. So I just kind of like, let's philosophically look at this time and try to distance my knowledge and just watch it as itself.
Immediately after the gym battle with Erica, they cut to this like Pokemon Center in the forest. I have a feeling that's somewhere in Johto, but I didn't search to find out.
Yeah, I wonder how far it skips with that timeline, because Ash at this point just has a Pikachu and a Caterpie, and he's talking to his mom in this scene. So one thing I kind of noticed, because I actually watched this initially in the theater, I was just kind of like surprised at how Ash talked to his mom. Like, he just kind of seemed really rude. Like, his mom was like, "Oh, I was so worried about you," and she actually said, "You're just like your father. It would be nice if you could give me a call every once in a while." And I just kind of laughed because they did barely mention his father in like the anime too, because
Yeah.
in that one, his mom seemed like a lot more proud of him. Like, "Oh, your father would be so proud of you. You're the apple of his eye." And Ash was more like unsure of himself. But this time Ash is like, "I know what I'm doing. I got this." And he's like,
isn't he
"I'm
like,
hanging
well, if
up." I was like, damn, like, he is like,
yeah, isn't he like, well, if that's all this was about, then I'm just gonna hang up. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, dude.
oh shit. And we also in this scene see Ash's two new companions, Verity and Sorrel. They picked the most interesting names for these characters. Anyway, so
I love this Pokemon Center. The aesthetics of this environment, the forest, the center, it looks so beautiful. I want to go there so fucking bad. Like I love it.
yeah, it like I love how they kind of show it's like a hangout area too, like they did the original anime. Like trainers can just kind of chill there. It's not like this tiny ass thing. Like it's just kind of like a social place. So in the next scene, you see this like trainer running in with this tiny ass Vaporeon. Like I did not think they were that small. It was so cute and small, and I was like,
Well,
I was more like,
maybe
yeah.
a young Vaporeon is smaller than an older Vaporeon because you can evolve your Eevee to a Vaporeon at level 1 with a water stone.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe with Pokemon that evolve by stone or trading or not by leveling and growth, maybe they actually can be smaller and then become bigger as they grow.
I would love a tiny ass Vaporeon.
And then just never train it so it always stays tiny.
Yeah. So the trainer, Nurse Joy's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And the trainer goes, "There was an Entei." And I was like, "Wait a minute, Entei? Like, okay." So, and then all these trainers get really excited. They're like, "Oh my God, there's an Entei. I bet it's still outside." They all go running out. And, I really enjoy how they show the legendaries in this because they, lately they just kind of seem like anyone can get a legendary, but like the movies kind of like recapture the fact that they are legendary and they're massive and they're terrifying and they're strong. And I love how they show that. So Ash and the girl Verity.
Yeah, she's this girl that was at the Pokemon Center with a Piplup. When the guy runs in, like, yeah, it was an Entei, they both are like, "Oh, we gotta go catch it," and they run out there. Also present at the Pokemon Center is Team Rocket. Well, Jesse, James, and Meowth. Not Giovanni and the entire organization. That would be weird.
That'd be interesting.
You just walk in, you're like, "I think I'll get the next Pokemon Center."
Right.
Just
And
rocket members everywhere.
it's funny too because they have the same kind of introduction as they did. It's a wanted poster and the trainer's like, "Oh, who's that?" And Nurse Joy tells them instead of Officer Jenny this time around. She's like, "Oh, there are these really horrible people that steal Pokemon." And they're kind of sitting there in the corner with their newspapers with the eyes cut out and they're just kind of like watching. They're like, "Yeah, they know we're bad." It's funny because in this movie, Team Rocket doesn't really get directly involved with Ash and Pikachu at all. They're more of a comedic relief character. They're just kind of like, they're their own little thing, like with the cameos, but that's about it.
Well, you know what? You could say that about pretty much any of the fucking Pokemon movies. Like, but this one especially. In this one, all they do is follow Ash, and that's it. They do nothing else. You just see them every once in a while.
They never meet. Their goal is not getting Pikachu.
No, and I will cite that as a positive. I love that. Team Rocket is after the legendaries. They follow Ash to try to find Entei, and then they follow Ash further to try to find Ho-Oh, which makes so much more sense to me. Even if I was making the anime and I wanted Team Rocket to be consistently following Ash, I wouldn't have had them after the Pikachu. I would have them just be like, "How come this kid keeps encountering all these rare Pokemon? We should follow him. Something is up."
Yeah, and I love Jesse's one-liners. So speaking of the Entei scene, just shortly after the battle ensues and everything, and Entei moves to a different location.
Yeah, so they battle the Entei, they go out and they find it and try to battle it, and it's just like, oh, please, fuck you, and then it leaves. And this also was really nostalgic for me because playing Fire Red, well, I was playing Leaf Green, I had no idea that Entei was in Leaf Green, and I ran, and they'll flee the second after you encounter them, and it's super fucking rare.
That. Oh, I hated that.
And it's super rare to run into them. So when I ran into one, I was like, what's going on? Aren't we in Kanto? What? And I just threw my Master Ball at it. So I kind of, watching the movie too, I was like, wait, Entei? Aren't we in Kanto? What's going on? And
right. And I love how they actually have a real Entei in this movie. Because if you go back to the third movie, Entei was just a dream. Entei was a vision created by the unknown. It wasn't actually Entei. This time it's like the real fucking Entei. And he's there, and he's badass, and he's like, I don't give a shit about y'all. You know, like, he will, there was a scene where he just, like, kind of looked at Ash, just glared at him, and, like, the piercing gaze, like, you could see the power that this is the real deal, and I loved that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, Princess Mononoke, like, have you seen Princess Mononoke?
I've heard about it. I need to get more into other movies outside of Pokemon.
Have you seen any Studio Ghibli?
Yeah, I've seen Ponyo. I've seen Spirited Away. I've seen Howl's Moving Castle. Okay. I need to watch all of them. But
cool. You've seen most of the great ones. Now they're all great. Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle and Princess Mononoke are the three. That's like the holy trinity.
I would love to see a Studio Ghibli Pokemon movie.
Oh, stop.
Yes.
Well, that's Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch.
I have to go watch that then.
Well, that's a game. Good. They made a video game a couple years ago, which is basically a Pokemon ripoff.
That actually sounds like fun. So after Entei flees, going back to Team Rocket's amazing one-liners, like, I love the writing for this. Jessie's standing there on the rock. She's like, well, I'm here, so where's Entei? Like, I just think it's so funny that, like, just the shit they say. Like, I will watch the anime sometimes and just listen to what they say, and I just crack up.
Wait a minute.
There was an episode recently where they were standing inside a haunted house, or they were like right outside a haunted house, and Jessie was like, well, there's a good chance it's not raining inside that house. Like, just the most random fucking lines. They're hilarious. They're so funny.
I like that, but I don't get the other one. She says, well, I'm here, so where's Entei? Yeah,
she's like, Entei should be here because I'm here. Like,
oh, like she's that into herself?
Like, yeah, like, it's just like the way she said it. It just cracked me up.
Sure, yeah, I can see that.
That's why they're the perfect comedy trio. They just don't care. They're just like, I'm here, so whatever.
It would be nice to see them have a real role in one of the movies, though, one of these days.
We should give them a spinoff. Just like a day in the life of Team Rocket.
Agreed. They did all that Pokemon Chronicles shit. Like, why didn't they do any episodes about Team Rocket?
Well, they have done a few, like the story of Meowth. That was very much a Team Rocket episode, and I know they've done like one or two other ones where they just kind of hang out.
Wait, was that the one where he was in love with another Meowth, right?
Yeah, the very beginning when we found out why Meowth learned to speak.
I remember that, and then there was the one about James's history and the one about Jessie's history.
Yeah.
I always wish James would get Growly back. It pissed me off so bad. Like, watching that episode as a kid, I was like, sweet, James has a Growlithe now. Wait, he's not taking it with him? Why the fuck isn't he taking it with him? That's dumb. Anyway.
So, let's see.
So, Verity and Ash decide to have a battle after this. And as they start battling, they disturb probably sleeping Onyx, which is nearby, and the Onyx just starts charging at them. This is another thing I love, because these are the little moments in a trainer's journey that are so often overlooked that must obviously happen, which fascinate me and pull me into the world. If you're two trainers and you decide to have a battle out in the middle of the woods, and there's all these big, giant, aggressive creatures around, you might disturb one of them and have to put your battle on hold and run away. That never happens in the games, but of course it would happen in the real world.
Right, exactly. Because if you go into the woods, you're going to see some sort of wildlife. And, you know, can you imagine being in the woods and just seeing a giant pile of rocks and it's a fucking Onyx? Like, I would lose my shit. Like, I would run so fucking fast.
I can't imagine it. I imagine it all the time, which is why I was so thankful for that scene.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny too, because like I was just kind of watching it again and again, and it was just funny to me like how sometimes the anime, like there was a scene where they're like, let's run on top of this rock. Like they ran up that rock really fucking quick. Like that giant massive rock that was in the way to try to get away from the Onyx.
Oh, yeah.
Like they ran up that rock really fucking quick. I'm like, that doesn't even seem human, but okay.
Well, Ash pulls a fucking Legolas and like runs up the Onyx's head and jumps off and lands on his feet. And then, okay.
I was like,
okay. Ash is a fucking idiot. Okay, that's something that's never been said before on this podcast. He thinks he can stop anything by holding his arms out, spread eagle, and yelling shit about, like, dude, it's not a fucking bear, Ash. He thinks he can stop Mew and Mewtwo. He thinks he can stop a flock of Spearows.
Apparently saying stop in front of a Pokemon will stop it.
And now in Onyx, he doesn't even say stop. He's like, well, yeah, and Mewtwo, he says, you gotta stop right now. And, like, he's like, I'm Ash Ketchum, and I'm gonna be the greatest, and my mom dates Professor Oak. And the Onyx is like, why is that relevant? Why is that gonna make me stop charging at you?
By the way, did you notice that Ash's mom, like, walked in the professor's lab and didn't even knock? She just walked in.
I didn't notice, but more evidence. Even in other pocket universes.
I would like to see an episode about the day in the life. Actually, I'm sure they've done like snippets of it, like a day in the life of Ash's mom.
Yeah, they have done little snips with the Mr. Mime and stuff, yeah.
That's true. I don't know. I'll have to go back and rewatch it, because we all know there's something going on there.
What a coincidence, Briana. I'd like to spend a day of my life in Ash's mom. All right. So following that scene, they run into some guy like right before they battle, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to want to battle you too. And he's like, yeah, it's about to rain, you dumbasses. Like, I'm going to go find shelter. You guys should too. And he leaves. Then after they run away from the Onyx, it eventually does start raining, and they stumble across the Charmander out in the rain.
Yeah, so out of the shadows comes Damien. Just kidding. It's a new character named Cross. This could mean two things. Either they were like, this is a totally different Charmander, or they were just trying to introduce, a new villain, a new character. And honestly, he definitely does become the villain.
Yeah, it's a different universe, so everything's different.
So they run into this guy, Cross, and he's got this Lycanroc in the Midnight form. And honestly, like, it's the first, Piplup is technically the first Pokemon that isn't from this generation that you see. But Lycanroc, like, you can tell this is kind of like they're trying to, like, advertise the new Pokemon with this character. So in the scene, Charmander, just kind of weakly, happily stumbles over to Cross, and Cross kicks it. And, you just feel so much pain for that poor Charmander. It's trying to love its trainer. And they give you definitely the same feel that they did in the original anime with that Charmander.
Yeah, and that's a pretty decent scene. It's better than the episode, I'll say. The way the emotion and it's more believable, like the way Ash is being defensive about the Charmander, and the way the guy like pushes him back and the Lycanroc comes up on him like, oh, you're getting in my trainer's face? What? We got a problem? I enjoyed it. Cross is a cooler character than Damien too. By cooler, I mean just as a character. He's a prick. I don't think he's cool. I think he's a piece of shit.
Kicking Pokemon is not cool.
Nah, unless you're another Pokemon. But I just think he looks cooler than Damien as a character design. He don't have this stupid, dumb Cockney accent that doesn't even belong there. He doesn't. He seems more like a character. Like, I don't know. I liked him better as a character.
There's more of a and a lot of the things he says, like, he's just very mean spirited. Like, Pokemon are weak. What's the point of training them? If they're just gonna be weak. And Ash is like, the whole point of training them is to be friends with them. Like, what the hell, dude? And he just like, this Pokemon's a piece of trash. And, it kind of shows you like the opposite side of like the good trainer. Like there are bad people in the Pokemon universe. There are bad trainers that treat their Pokemon like fucking garbage and just like release them. Like it's like I can see like him being in the category of trainers that will constantly breed Pokemon for IVs, like positive good IVs, and like just keep releasing all these fucking Pokemon because they aren't good enough. Like I can see him in the same category as these people.
Yeah, that's how you get the international police on your ass. I guarantee they won't let that happen. They would stop somebody doing that because that's cruelty. But then again, I don't know. We're still sorting the morality and, social values of this world out. One thing that I thought about, which I had never thought about before, was when Ash picks up the Charmander so they can run to try to save it before the flame on its tail goes out. He holds it under his jacket, and I'm like, oh fuck. You know how hard that would be to like keep your jacket from catching on fire, to keep the flame alive, and you have to run through the rain. So you got the wind trying to put it out. So you're trying to keep your jacket around it, but not so close that it catches on fire. The rain, like, so you're not trying to run too fast or the wind will put it out or the flame will touch your jacket. Like, God, that would be so nerve-wracking.
Honestly, if I were into making Pokemon clothing, I would make them all, like, flame retardant. Like, they have to be. Because if you're a fire Pokemon, honestly, look at all the times Ash has been burned by his Charizard and hasn't died. Like, obviously, there's got to be, like his clothes have to be, like, flame retardant. However, the jeans won't be, because the scene with, when they were fighting Entei, there was, like, clearly a part where Ash's ass was on fire, and it was so funny to see that. Because, like, if you think about it, Oh, like Mario. I was like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah, that's what Mario does when his ass is on fire. Come on, keep up.
I was like, what the fuck noise did you just make? And then it like took me 5 minutes. Mario
needs some preparation H.
So anyway.
It's a bath time.
So they go into a cave to try to save the Charmander, and the other character that we haven't quite met yet, his name is Sorrel, and he's there, and he starts like yelling at Ash, like, "What the fuck? You left it out in the rain? Like, are you an idiot?" The girl's like, "Whoa, like it wasn't his. Like, someone abandoned it."
I liked that too,
and I love this character because he's really fucking sarcastic and like knows his shit.
And he's got a Lucario,
huh?
And he's got a Lucario, which is cool.
True. Lucario is pretty awesome. So he's like trying to help the Charmander, and Ash is like, are you gonna help it? And he's like, that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm like, I like you. You got some sass.
So they set up a fire, and they're trying to get Charmander healthy and keep everybody warm. And they start like small talking around the fire, and Sorrel asks them like, "Oh, where do you guys come from? Verity, what are you doing here?" And Verity gets so guarded about what she's doing there. She's like, "Huh? Me? Oh, I don't know. What about you, Ash? What the fuck was that all about?"
Yeah, I think that was and it's interesting because they try to give them a little bit of a backstory this time around, because like a lot of characters that they meet in the Pokemon world don't really have a backstory. It's just like, we're just going to design and throw in new characters and they're just going to be there for battling purposes. They actually are like, these people have a backstory.
I don't remember them ever following up on that.
Actually, they did. But we'll get into that later on.
All right, well, I guess you'll have to explain to me, because I want to know why the fuck Verity was so guarded about her past. I don't remember. But while they're there in the cave, the Entei comes in with a bunch of other Pokemon from the forest, and like it's leading them to shelter. And you expect, again, it's like Princess Mononoke, like it's the guardian of the forest almost. You expect it to be like, WTF, there's people in here. But it's kind of just like, no, I don't even care. They pose about as much threat to me as the Zubats in this cave. It sees the people, looks at them, and it's like, what? And lays down. And I kind of love that, because even though they're Pokemon that generally avoid people, they're also so powerful, they don't give a fuck. He's like, oh, well, I'm not going to waste my energy kicking these humans out of the cave any more than I'm going to waste my energy kicking a couple Spinneracks crawling around the walls out of the cave,
And I absolutely love how like just little forest Pokemon. Like Entei protects them. Like I love that.
Me too.
That's amazing. That like this big powerful being that could easily like probably eat them is just like, I'll keep you warm. Whatever.
I think that's a great in between the so there's sometimes we see wild Pokemon in gangs, like the Squirtle Squad or the Pokemon gang in Pikachu's Vacation that antagonizes Ash's Pokemon. And then those are like really human-like friendships, very anthropomorphic friendships. And then we see a lot of wild Pokemon in like herds or swarms, and that's very animalistic. I like this, that there's this mystical Pokemon that's the guardian of the forest that is just kind of like, it's not like they're not being too human and buddy-buddy. It seems more animalistic, but on a level that like if you had seen that in the real world, you'd be like, holy shit. There's a deer and a fox and a raccoon, and they're all going into this cave, but more like when you see all those different animals running from an earthquake, like something more like, oh, wow, these animals have some, I don't know, connection that we don't know about.
Like understanding.
Yeah.
Like, no time to fuck around. I can't eat you right now. We got shit to do. Like I like that. So Ash, Verity, and Sorrel are sitting there just kind of hanging out. This is really fascinating. Sorrel started talking about Entei's story, how all three Pokemon, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, came to be. And I never heard it verbalized this way, because in the Gold and Silver games, they briefly tell you about the bell tower that burned down.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, I'll just retell the story. So the story is about three nameless Pokemon that perished when the tower burned. And Ho-Oh came and breathed life into these three Pokemon, and they became Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. So the way Sorrel was describing it, each of the Pokemon represent a force of nature and what happened in the tower. So Entei is the flames that engulf the tower. Raikou is the thunder that struck the tower, and Suicune is the rain that distinguished the flame.
Oh, wow. I had never heard it put that way either.
It was in the movie. Did you not pay attention?
Well, no, I did. I'm just saying that's a really cool... I've never seen that in any other... in the video games or anything like that either. And that is also a really cool take.
And I just think it's so amazing because, that's the first time that they really were like, these are what these three Pokemon represent. And, Suicune is my ultimate favorite. So it was just amazing to me to just hear that story. Because, we know, Entei represents fire, Raikou is lightning, and Suicune was fire or water and ice. And it's just amazing that it actually represents what happened in the tower as well. I just thought that was so cool. And the animation for that story was so cool. It was the style they used was beautiful.
You saw the Pokemon Generations episode about that too, right?
I did forever ago. I'd have to rewatch it.
Right, yeah, that was cool with Ucine.
So after Sorrel tells the story about the three Pokemon, Ash, he mentions Ho-Oh, and Ash is like, I've seen Ho-Oh. And they're like, wait, what? And he shows them the Rainbow Wing. And over by Entei, you can see Entei, looks over. And for the first time, we see a little glimpse of the new legendary Pokemon in this movie, Marshadow. You see its little eyes that look like little lanterns hiding in Entei's shadow. Then Sorrel mentions the story about the Rainbow Hero, which is kind of what the movie is about. Ash is like, I would love to meet that Pokemon again. And, at that point, Sorrel and Verity are like, we'd like to go with you. I think that'd be really cool. I'd like to see it for myself. So at that point, they decide to travel together.
And Ash has his Misty and Brock for this movie.
Like that. So Charmander gets better. Ash is like, hey, do you want to come with us? And, of course, Charmander says yes. And Ash gets a Charmander. Yay! So the next few scenes we have are kind of a little fast forward, showing their adventure and, how the characters progress, how the Pokemon progress. They show battles that the Pokemon evolve in. So there was a Pinsir battle, and Caterpie evolves into Metapod.
I love the way the Pinsir, because they're out in the woods, and I love how the Pinsir sort of just marches up, fights with him, and then he's like, nah, fuck this, and just marches off. It's so bug-like. You can see an actual beetle just kind of marching up, fucking with another bug, and then he's like, nah, fuck this bug. This bug's too much. All right, and then just march off.
I like the pincer theme song you've created.
If I can get Les Claypool to just play that on his bass, that's Pincer's theme song.
And they show, cute little scenes of like them having fun together. And there's the next scene, which actually guess what? We're going to find out about someone's backstory. They have the characters, just kind of sleeping underneath the stars. And then you have Verity sitting by the water. And she's just looking through her little phone. And it's funny because, like, they kind of throw in the technology that we have today in the Pokemon universe. So she's just kind of swiping through pictures she took and kind of giggling. And I think that's kind of funny because I'm like, this girl is, like, swiping through, like, pictures and stuff. And it's technology we have now. Like,
they had that technology first, though. Like, they did.
So she continues swiping through, and then she comes across this picture of a woman with long blonde hair, who's looks like she's playing with her Piplup, and there's an Empoleon in the background. The identity of the woman is never revealed, but I looked on Bulbapedia underneath the characters, and it's stating that is Cynthia.
Cynthia from what?
Cynthia is the
Rugrats?
Cynthia is the champion of the...
Cynthia, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
The champion of Sinnoh.
Sinnoh, that's what it was. So yeah, like they say that is Cynthia. So you obviously can tell that this is her mom.
So and she's Cynthia's daughter?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that was Cynthia. Wow.
Right. Well, it might just be speculation, but like I looked underneath the characters and it said Cynthia, and I made the connection, like she has the same exact hair, like it has to be, because they've already had all these other characters make cameos, so it's got to be. There's got to be a purpose for it, because like her true identity is never revealed. So I knew right off the bat that this was her mother, or whoever, that she was like avoiding.
I figured that out, that it was her mom. I just didn't realize it was Cynthia.
And in the scene, Verity looks up from her phone, feeling that deep emotion of, like, I'm upset about this photo. And she sees Suicune. And Suicune just kind of, like, looks up and looks at her. And, Suicune's my absolute favorite. So I'm happy that Suicune made an appearance in the movie. And then it was gone. And the next scene was the morning after, and she had mentioned that she saw Suicune. Oh, yeah, my mom is a really good Pokemon trainer back home, and nothing I ever do is good enough for her. And she said, we haven't talked since I left. So she finally kind of like, just kind of mentions that.
I must have just like kind of fogged through that line or something.
Yeah, it was just kind of like they wrapped up the backstory really quick with that one. But it was interesting when I found out that they believe it was Cynthia. Like, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. So then they're at this place. It's like it's outdoors in some town or city, and it's clearly an arena designed for Pokemon battling. But what's going on seems to be I like the varying degrees of formality that we see for Pokemon battles in this. We see a Pokemon League battle at the very beginning in the stadium, like broadcast on TV. We see Ash and Verity challenge each other in the forest to just a one-on-one battle in the middle of the forest. And then we see these battles, which don't seem to be some official league thing, but more like if you're walking through the hood and you see some people playing basketball and you're like, I got winners. You know what I mean? Like, a crowd is gathered to watch them, and when Ash wins, the guy's like, all right, well, who's next? Who's his next challenger since he won? So it seems almost like they've got an informal thing going on where it's just like, all right, come on, let's play. Whoever wins, the next person challenges. But it's not like an officially league-sanctioned event or anything. And I love that because it's real. And I love the Jigglypuff trainer that Ash is battling against.
It's like super German. Like, it's...
Oh, really? I saw her as just like super cool, badass punk rock lesbian chick. Like, I don't know. I thought she seemed super cool.
Little spikes on her head. Like, I don't know. She just has like that German, like Olga type of look to her.
She reminded me of Ramona Flowers' ex-girlfriend. I don't know. She just needed a hammer. But no, Ramona Flowers had the hammer. What did she have? I don't remember. A whip? You've seen Scott Pilgrim, right?
Forever ago, but yeah, I know what you mean.
It's so good. You should read the comic. You'll love it.
I should. You're right.
It's up your alley. Trust me. You will like it. So while Ash is battling his Charmander against the Jigglypuff, the Charmander evolves the Charmeleon.
It's funny too because like the second Charmander evolves into Charmeleon, it's just mid jump, and then like Ash goes to catch it and just knocks him over, and I can tell that this is not the same temperament that Ash's original Charmeleon had, because this one is more like loving and affectionate, and like, you know, Charmeleon, like as soon as Ash is evolved in the anime, it was kind of like a dick. So this is a totally different Charmeleon.
And you know why? It's because that was the only Pokemon that he got from somebody else that evolved, correct?
That's true. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because in the game, if you get it from a trade, if you're not up to a certain level, it won't
obey you past a certain level. And Charmander was originally Damien's. Bulbasaur never evolved. Squirtle never evolved. So, yeah, I don't know.
I never made that connection. That's good to know.
So in this movie, though, the Charmeleon, Charizard, whatever, never disobeys him. None of that's present.
Right. And honestly, I'm okay with that for the purpose of this movie, because it would just hinder the plot line.
Yeah, what are we going to have, a 3-hour movie? This isn't fucking Peter Jackson.
It should have been, though, because I feel like they rushed a lot of scenes. So in between the battles, they're in a library, and Sorrel is checking out this book. And the book is about Ho-Oh and the Rainbow Hero. And they found an interesting fact in the book that if the Rainbow Wing is handled by someone with an evil heart, it turns black. And you can kind of see in the corner that Cross and Lycanroc are just kind of standing there, like, listening in.
And that's no good, because you know what they say. Once you go black, you never go back.
True. This is true. So in the next scene, which it's kind of funny, Pikachu versus a Snorlax. All you see is Snorlax just like thousands of feet up in the air, just coming down ready to pummel Pikachu. And like Ash calls the Iron Tail attack, and then Pikachu just sends it flying. It's just so funny to like see a Snorlax like that fucking far up in the air. Like, it cracks me up.
I love Snorlax. I thought that was a really cool scene.
Yeah, like it's so funny. Like, it doesn't make any sense physically, but I mean, think about it. What if Snorlax was actually like made of like helium?
Snorlax is not made of helium. He was just hit with an what?
Wouldn't it be funny though?
He was just hit with an incredibly powerful Pokemon move. That's all. Pikachu's a badass.
True story.
So Ash wins that battle, and his next challenger is, of course, Damien. I mean, Cross. I mean, isn't it interesting that their names are almost like opposites? Like, Damien is the Antichrist, and Christ... Yeah, and the cross is associated with Christ. Do you think
I literally think they just named him Cross because of his bangs.
Because of his bangs, yeah. I don't think it was an intentional, but again, I think this is another example of Pokemon just crystallizing into these, like, apophenic coincidences.
They named him Cross so you don't cross him.
Apophenic Coincidences is also the name of my Vaporwave band. Anyway.
So this scene is like... Okay, so like this scene blew my mind. The way that they actually got more into what they don't normally talk about. So Cross Damien throws out his Incineroar, which I'm sorry, I can't handle this Pokemon. Like, I can't.
No, you misspoke. You meant to say Digimon. You said Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with it, but it did really let me down, as I've said before. I really like Litten, and I really wanted it to evolve to something more feline. But I like it. It's just not my favorite.
That'd be like an Entei style, like, you know, like a big dog type of thing, like on all fours. Like, I don't want like a giant muscle cat that shoots flamethrowers from its belt. The fuck? Like, I don't know. So anyway, you have G.I. Joe Cat versus Ash's Charmeleon. And Charmeleon, I love how they did this. Charmeleon, the second he sees who he's facing, like, you can see his expression, like, oh shit, it's fuckface. Like, oh my god. It actually, like, shows that Charmeleon recognizes who this trainer is. And, of course, Cross is like, even though it evolved, it's still fucking weak, and he continuously eggs Ash on, and Ash is just trying to, like, defeat it. So he calls Flamethrower for Charmeleon, and Incineroar keeps taking attack after attack after attack.
Letting Charmeleon hit him.
Right, and then they realize after a while that is Cross's battle strategy, which is kind of a fucked up strategy if you think about it. Just letting your Pokemon continuously get beaten just so it can have increased attack power to counter it.
But it's part of that Pokemon's natural abilities, is that the more damage it takes, the more powerful it gets, kind of like a Saiyan. So I think that's actually really cool to incorporate that into the battling on this movie, because a lot of times they don't really incorporate much from the games into the actual show like that, Right,
and they're starting to more now than ever, and they did something different with this battle that I hadn't seen before, and I really enjoyed it. Ash just kept calling attack after attack, and then his friends all realized, oh shit, like we know exactly what he's up to now. Ash, you can't call these moves. And then he calls Flamethrower again, and Charmeleon starts coughing, and it can't unleash the attack. Sorrel says from the sideline, Charmeleon just evolved. Its powers aren't ready yet. And they never, ever said that before in the anime, where they acknowledge that these Pokemon have to grow into these new moves. They can't just know them off the bat.
I like that, or into this new body, like, even, because you think puberty was bad, like, it just went through the most drastic change an organism could ever go through. It's so much more fast than any type of metamorphosis that occurs in the real world. There's no cocoon stage. It just changes its entire body, and that does probably take some time to getting used to. That's probably also part of being a Pokemon trainer, is helping your Pokemon get used to its growing body. Yeah, you're going to notice some feathers in some weird places, Firo.
So this battle, like, Ash loses horribly too. It's heartbreaking. Like, you can see, like, how devastating it is for Charmeleon and Ash to lose this battle, because Charmeleon just can't use Flamethrower. It's not able to, and just watching them crash and burn so hard in this battle, like, they really showed how upsetting it can be to lose. And then it doesn't help that afterward Cross comes up to him and goes, your Pokemon is still weak. You were calling moves that it didn't know. You are the worst trainer I've ever seen. And, like, just hearing those words, like, they really captured, like, how upsetting it is as a trainer to lose a battle. And especially for Charmeleon. Can you imagine how badly Charmeleon wanted to get back at Cross for abandoning it?
Yeah.
And then, to just brutally lose. And, like, they really, like, Charmeleon was, like, knocked into a brick wall and, like, just skidded across the ground and just couldn't do it. It was just, like, you could really sense Ash's frustration with the battle.
He gets, like, darkly frustrated after this. Like, afterwards, he's just like, this is fucking bullshit, man. Pikachu would have won that match.
The fact that he said that is something. And here's another thing, visually you'll notice. He was walking, away from everybody, and then he walked into the shadow. As soon as he walked into the shadow, he said Pikachu would have won that thing. So there's a significance with shadows in this movie.
Yeah, and you see Marshadow also.
Exactly. And there's a definite, like, visual significance, and Ash would never say something like that. Everyone was like, oh my god, why would you say that? What if Charmeleon could hear you?
Yeah, his friends are like, dude, come on, chill, you're being a fucking dick. It doesn't matter, you lost a match. It's like trying to talk to Phil after he loses in Smash Brothers. It's like, come on, Phil.
So he goes into the forest, and he's obviously really upset, and he's in denial. I'm pretty sure this is the first match he's lost, and he just can't grasp the fact that he's lost. And I'm sure there was a lot riding on this match for him as well, trying to get back at that dick for abandoning this poor Charmander, only to lose and fall flat on his face.
And
so
it hurt his pride. Like, it hurt his pride and his what do you call, like, your beliefs, your the things you stand for, principles. And his principles, like, he was trying to stand up for his principles, and this dude beat him and then humiliated him, like, verbally.
Right.
And
how someone like that win? You know, like his training, he says his training is all wrong. How can someone like that win?
The world's not black and white. That except in Unova. But he gets really pissy, and his friends are like, dude, like, you lost a battle, like, don't talk shit about Charmeleon. He did his best. That happens. And he's like, well, fuck you guys too then. I'm going on my own. I don't know what he says. So, but he goes off on his own, and Pikachu, he's like, well, Pikachu, you agree with me, right? And Pikachu's just like, dude. And he's like, are you fucking fine? Fuck you too then. Like, he doesn't say it, but he's just kind of like, all right, well, I'm just going to ignore you and walk ahead and just be kind of a dicky, grumpy butt. And eventually he turns around and Pikachu's gone. Right.
And then at this point, he's just like, he just feels defeated, and he sits against a tree, and he kind of sounds whiny in this scene. He's like, I thought I was the rainbow hero. And he's like, you know what? I can do this all by myself. Who needs Pikachu?
This is bullshit. I thought I was the rainbow hero.
So you see the wing starting to turn black, and Marshadow comes out, and it sounds like a fucking horror movie, because like Marshadow's like whispering in his ear, and it's like, it sounds like a bug infestation. Like, it's a weird fucking noise. Like, it just sounds like a horror movie. And then Ash's eyes just kind of glow, and then they slowly close. And he wakes up, and everything is black and white. And this scene just, I'm going to describe it in every detail I can, because this scene just changed my life.
Well, we're talking about his dream, right?
Yes. So he wakes up, and the first thing you notice is his mom saying, you're going to be late for Professor Oak's class. And Ash runs out of bed, and the poster on the wall is of cars.
Has fucking cars on it.
The poster that had Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle has cars on it.
Yeah.
And he runs, and then he's running into a schoolyard, and he goes out front, and he's like, Professor Oak, I'm so sorry I'm late. And he goes, you're the fourth latest student, you know, you're the latest one. And Ash runs in and goes to class, and he sits down, and
it's just regular school. It's basically he's dreaming about a world without Pokemon.
Exactly. And this scene just really spoke to me, because we've never seen that before in the Pokemon world. What if these characters existed without Pokemon? Yeah. And you see Ash sitting there, and he's the same person, but he's not, in a way. You can tell something's missing, and he can tell something's missing, because he's kind of sitting there. Interesting fact, too. If you kind of just watch the scene and pay close attention to who the teacher is, it's Agatha.
Oh, wow.
The Elite Four. And she's talking about rainbows.
Jesus. That's awesome, because Agatha and Professor Oak are supposed to be old colleagues. Wow.
Exactly. So in the scene, they're all sitting there, and, Verity and Sorrel there. You don't really see their faces much. The focus is very much on Ash, and everything else is kind of vignette. And it's all black and white. And they're like, did you forget your homework? And he's like, yeah, I forgot it. And they're like, you got to really get it together. And he's just kind of sitting there. And then he sees this little yellow blob just running by. And he kind of looks, and they're like, what's up? And he's like, it's nothing. Like, I thought I saw something. And then you see him kind of leaning out the window and looking up at the sky. And Ho-Oh flies by. And then he blinks, and it's an airplane. And just watching this scene for me, like, I just started sobbing in the theater.
Oh, man.
Because I saw myself in this scene. I saw how different would our lives be without Pokemon. Like, without that wonder, without, like, everything that Pokemon brings to me personally. Like, I'm getting, like, really philosophical up in here.
You mean if the actual franchise itself didn't exist?
Exactly. Like, what if, and Pokemon represents to me that wonder of childhood, the imagination, the games we played as a kid, all the pretending we did. What if we lived life without those things? The world would seem very black and white.
Yeah, and when he wakes up from the dream and reflects back on his dream about a world without Pokemon, it makes him cry. And I'm like, I feel you, Ash. I wake up in a world without Pokemon. Sure, we got the games, but like I wake up in a world where there are no real Pokemon every day, and it's fucking tough, man. Sometimes it makes me want to cry too.
And it's on a more serious note too. Just listening to Ash say,
I was serious. I'm being serious.
I know. We all wish that Pokemon were real. So we see him in the schoolyard just kind of with his hands against the fence, and he's asking Sorrel and Verity, he's like, what's out there? And, and Sorrel being very serious, he's like, there's trees and rivers and forests and mountains, and Ash is like, and past that, and probably more of the same. And Ash just wants to know what's beyond that. And he says, I want to see what's out there with my own eyes. I want to see the world. I want to travel with friends. I want to make friends. With my buddy, I can do anything. And his friends are like, what buddy? And Ash is like, you even have to ask. My buddy's with me all the time. And then
it sounds like the startup for like a Viagra commercial or something. Like, not like, I don't know, like a startup for some type of commercial that's like, yeah, just with my buddy. What buddy? Oh, do you have to ask? My buddy's with me all the time. I bring my buddy with me everywhere I go. And then it's like, bring your buddy with you everywhere you go. Ventafil. I don't know.
Ventafil. Interesting.
Ventafil.
So, it's just a very emotional scene. And then Pikachu appears as a little blob again, and then he starts chasing after it.
Like an ethereal, like vague form, like wispy form.
Exactly. Like he says, we used to run like this all the time, but I can't remember who you are. And meanwhile, I'm in the theater just fucking sobbing because here I am 25 years old sitting in the theater hugging my Squirtle plush, sobbing at this scene because I'm like, oh my God, like Pokemon is like, oh my God. It just blew my mind. Like the fact that they address like what ifs in this movie. And so anyway, Ash wakes up and Pikachu's there and everything's okay. And it's a dream. So it's a really fucking quick cop out, but it was just beautiful. And then the second he realized it was Pikachu, everything was in color again. And I just love that. And there's a lot of yellow flowers, too, in these dream sequences. And yellow flowers mean friendship. So, Japan is, just throwing up all this symbolism on us. And I fucking love it. I love it. They actually put thought into this shit. It's amazing. So, Ash wakes up in the forest and Marshadow, that fucking dick, disappears. I'm sorry, but, Marshadow at the end of this movie is a fucking dick.
No, it's a force of nature. I hear you. It was kind of confusing to me at first because I'm like, wait, so Marshadow's a good guy? Because if one of the colors in the rainbow goes out, it seals it up and restores it. But
that's where I got confused because there's a lot of shit with that Pokemon. It might have been the way they translated it. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make sense, but the way I see Marshadow, he's a dick.
Also, the forces of nature, though, are a lot more powerful and mysterious than me or you. We ourselves are forces of nature. But, an entity of nature like that, doesn't... Just because it's serving its place in the world doesn't mean that you as a human being find it happy and nice when you interact with it. It turned Ash... It really corrupted Ash's mind. It possessed those Pokemon at the end. We're jumping the gun. But it's a force of nature. This is just kind of part of its role in the world and part of its nature. I don't know. Hurricanes aren't nice to us, but there's a reason that they exist in our atmosphere. I don't know.
And yeah, we'll get into that because there's a lot of shit toward the end that doesn't add up for me. So not even 5 minutes later, they're all the characters are just kind of chilling in the forest. And, Ash was telling them about the dream they had. And they're like, wow, that's so crazy. Can you imagine? And then Sorrel goes on and he's like, yeah, and Pokemon can't leave us. Not even 5 minutes later, after I'm done fucking sobbing from the previous scene, he goes into the story about when he was a kid and there was a Luxray that took care of him.
Oh,
and the Luxray fucking dies, keeping him warm outside. And they actually show it. And I'm crying again. And I'm like, Japan, you are fucking with my emotions so bad. Let me recover from the previous cry, before you throw this shit on my plate.
Those were the most emotional scenes for me. Not necessarily even the Luxray being dead, but the scene right before it when it comes out there to protect him and curl up with him. That really touched me. And when his Lucario comes out to be like, no, I'm staying out here with you. We're going to stay warm together in this cave.
Exactly.
Because the bond between Pokemon and trainer is a very real and special thing to me.
Exactly. And honestly, I just wish they would have waited a little bit longer before throwing me into another emotional downward spiral. That's all I wanted. Just give me some time to recover. So after that emotionally charged scene, they get attacked by some primate, and Metapod saves the day and evolves into the Butterfree, which is important because for the next scene coming up, they see a pink Butterfree that's under attack by a Fearow. Guess what's going to happen, guys?
And Brianna's like, God damn it, I haven't dried the tears from my cheeks yet. Jesus Christ.
This scene, though, I did cry at because I was like, I know what's going to happen here. This is fine.
Yeah, me too. It didn't affect me that much because I'm like, guys, I already cried at the original airing of this episode. So.
Yeah. And, in the actual anime, this scene with the Butterfree was one of the most emotionally charged episodes because it was, the first time a character actually had to say goodbye to a Pokemon.
Yeah.
I can understand why they needed it in this movie, just for that nostalgia trip and for everybody that remembered it. So it was nice that they included it. I just felt like it was very much rushed, but I can understand why. We're almost toward the end of the movie and we've already done like so much stuff that they tried to condense in like a 2-hour thing, and it's crazy like how much information they added. So Ash's Butterfree goes with the pink Butterfree, and I kind of like how they showed how Ash was crying in this one because, like, a 10-year-old, like, he's like, but wait, you'll have to say goodbye to all of us. Like, is this what you want? And Butterfree's like, yeah. And Ash just starts, like, bawling, and he's, like, trying to smile and, like, cry and wave. And I'm like, that's very much like how a 10-year-old would cry. Like,
I think
it's kind
that's
of
very much.
and
I liked it. I didn't see him as bawling. I just saw him as kind of crying after it left, and I saw that as very realistic. I love that as, like, how a lot of us would. If you had a dog and you realized your dog had to leave to be with a dog it loved and go off with this pack of dogs. That would never happen in this world. But if it did, that, and you made that choice, like, I think it's a lot better than what they might have done otherwise, which is have Ash be like, yeah, this is awesome. You know what? It sucks and I'm going to miss you and I'll always remember it. And this is sad, Butterfree. But then when he leaves, Ash, like, watches him leave with this wistful smile. But, like, in this, like, he did have that wistful smile, but he also just sobbed afterwards because he just lost.
He openly cried. It wasn't like the secret little under the hat cry that we're so used to. Like, he actually was, like, out there just crying because, like, yeah, it's a very emotional thing, saying goodbye to a friend. It was his first Pokemon that he ever caught.
Yeah, and that felt real. And also, in the test screenings, everyone had just been cried out by that point and had already seen that in the episode. So they're like, all right, well, let's make Ash cry and make it a little bit sadder.
Yeah, exactly. So in the next, like, 5 seconds after that, you see Raikou for, like, 5 seconds. And they're like, oh, hey, it's Raikou. And once again, Raikou gets shit on because nobody likes Raikou. And, like, he barely has, like, a scene. And then the next scene, they're like, okay, there's the mountains where the rainbow was coming from. Because they were following the rainbow to try to see Ho-Oh. Ash's wing does this, like, super mythical shit where it, like, unleashes a rainbow. Like, I wish I had a feather that could just release a rainbow when I held it up to the sun, like, hey.
Is that your one wish? And Genie shows up, gives you one wish. All right, I wish I had a feather, get this, that you could hold up to the sun and it would make a rainbow. The Genie's like, all right, I was not expecting that. Done. Here you go. That was the easiest wish.
From this moment on, I just kind of felt like it was just a regular Pokemon movie. With the exception of one scene, toward the end. But, like, it just kind of felt like, okay, like, we did all the emotional shit. Now we just got to do, like, the Pokemon movie and, like, talk about the legendaries and then have one really emotional scene and then just kind of rush the end. Like, that's how I feel like they handled the rest of this.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So they head up to the mountain and they run into this guy.
Yeah, Bonji? Who the fuck is Bonji? And what are you doing wearing Red's hat? What did you do with Red? Where did you get that?
That kind of weirded me out because I was like, wait, is that Red? Because, like, well, and here's another thing. He said, because Sorrel recognized him as the researcher from the book. And he's like, I've been researching Ho-Oh for 20 years. Holy shit, guess how many years Pokemon's been out?
Huh, that's odd. That is really interesting. He's got the big beard and everything obscuring his face. I thought for a moment that they were going to be like, this is Red, and Red is Ash's father.
Right, I thought it was going to be Ash's dad, too. I'm like, I hope Ash's dad doesn't look like that. It's kind of pathetic.
Because remember, didn't he meet the other guy on the mountain with a beard who hinted that he was his father?
Oh, the silver guy? I never watched the episode, but Potentially. I don't know. His dad's up on a mountain somewhere, let's be honest. But this guy, though, I think the main thing is, I don't know the whole purpose of Red's hat, but I don't think that he would look like that after 20 years. Just saying. With the gray beard and shit, I don't think it's the same person. I think maybe he, like, found Red's hat on his journey or some shit. He's like, I'm going to wear this. And if you look, too, on the back of his head, he has, like, a ponytail, and it looks like Ho-Oh's tail feathers. So I definitely believe that this character was created just for the purpose of this movie.
But that hat with the badge and everything
was the fuck with people.
It's Red's hat. Hold on. I want to find out if the word Bonji means anything. Let me see. Bonji is an extinct genus of oviraptorid dinosaur that lived approximately 66 million years ago during the later part of the Cretaceous period in what is now China. No, I doubt they were trying to hint towards a raptor.
I mean, he had short little arms like a raptor, right?
Apparently it's a song by Missy Elliott. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing. It's not actually his name. His name is never mentioned. He said, why don't you just call me Bonji? So we don't really know who the fuck this guy is. And the hat
what the
thing
fuck, dude?
is with me.
Maybe that's that universe's Red. And Red is Ash's father in that universe.
I don't know. I mean, his eyes are kind of like very sweet and like round like Ash's eyes are. I don't know. It's weird to me. He just seems like a crazy old mountain man to me. I don't know.
Yeah, so he's the guy who's been researching Ho-Oh, and they see all these Pokemon like up on the cliffs, like watching them. It's a really cool, eerie scene. But again, still depicts that majesty of wild Pokemon and wild environments. And he's just like, oh, all these wild Pokemon gather because they want Ho-Oh to give them power. Again, I see this as something like that, like animals know when to run from earthquakes. They just can innately sense we should all gather up here and get some power from Ho-Oh. Exactly.
And Bonji also mentions, too, you know, did you notice anything interesting? Because the Rainbow Wing is supposed to guide you here. You also might have a guide from the shadows. And then he starts to mention Marshadow. And they're like, oh, yeah, I have noticed some shit. And Ash is like, I wonder if he's still there. And he's like, and the Rainbow Wing, too, is also to thank for, you know, your run-ins with Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. So that kind of makes sense. Like, you know, they were attracted to the Rainbow Wing's power because they could sense Ho-Oh from it. So maybe those legendary Pokemon thought Ho-Oh was near, and that's why it kind of were near Ash and his friends.
Oh.
Yeah, because, you know, if you think about it, if I died and came back to life by this mystical being, I would want to hang out with that mystical being and be like, hey, thanks, dude. You know. Also, I'm going to look up the name of the mountains.
Okay.
So the mountains are called Brazen Mountains, and like it's a German word, and it can mean like irritate or tease or be charming or delightful. It's interesting because I was trying to figure out if there was a significance with the mountain name, but there isn't. So,
no. Oh well.
So they continue up the mountain, and you know, it kind of becomes very Pokemon movie-esque and overdone when the guy goes, when a rainbow appears and rainbow flowers bloom, Ho-Oh will appear, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We're back to the original Pokemon formula.
And then the world shall turn to Ash.
Something like that. So Ash is the rainbow hero, and you can tell, like, at this point, I'm like, okay, so they're just trying to end the movie at this point. Whatever. So Ash goes to try to put the rainbow wing on the rock, and Cross comes out, this fucking dick, and he's like, hey, asshole, Ho-Oh deserves to be battled by someone who's actually fucking strong, so I'm going to defeat you and then defeat Ho-Oh. And Ash is like, not cool, bro.
Yeah, he's trying to reason with him and be like, dude, come on. It doesn't, and he's like, no, all that matters is being strong. And he's like, well, what about weak people? Which is a really fair thing. Like, and he's like, well, fuck them. And so Ash is like, shit, this sucks. Honestly, I've gotten past needing to beat him for my own pride, but I can't afford not to beat him.
He's just a horrible human being. So in this scene,
not just because he's a horrible human being, but because of what's going to happen if he's the one who touches the rainbow wing or whatever. And
exactly, because we all know he's an asshole and nothing good could come of it. So in this scene, Charmeleon evolves into Charizard, which everyone in the audience is like, fucking yes, Charizard. And Charizard's a fucking badass. So now it's at the point where it is Gen 1 versus the new gen of the Fire-type starters, and it is going to be fucking epic. So they get into this epic battle, and Charizard kicks Incineroar's ass, and like everyone is so fucking excited about that. So Ash defeats him, and he just like takes his wing and he just walks by, and it's like a slow walk. Like Ash is like, I have pride in what I'm doing. I kicked your ass and I deserve this. And then Cross says, I saw Ho-Oh too. And Ash stops for a second, and Cross is like, Ho-Oh didn't give me the rainbow wing. Why must it be you? And, you know, think about it. I can understand kind of Cross's point too, because, like, why does Ash get anything? You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of ways, he's incompetent.
He sleeps in. He doesn't fucking, Exactly.
But if you think about it from, like, you know, everything he's shown, his heart's in the right place. Like, he has a pure heart. That's why.
All right, well, I think, and I'm nitpicking. I'm being, like, a moralistic nitpicker. I don't think there's a such thing as a pure heart, but I agree with what you're saying, and I think I'm going to clarify that no one has a pure heart. As we've seen in this movie, Ash can also get a little too selfish or caught up in being the best and being strong and proving himself and his pride, and that could definitely be listed as a fault or a strength. But I think what it is that Ash cares. He cares.
And it's in the right place, right?
That's what he, in the sense that he cares very passionately about people, about Pokemon, about individuals, about the world, about you following your dreams, about whether or not, like, he cares about everything to the point where he'll flip the fuck out and be like, no, you can't have an orange latte. That's not a thing that exists. I don't know why I said
Don't let your
orange
dreams
latte.
be dreams. Just do it. Sorry, wrong person. Like, same philosophy.
But yeah, he is a good person, and he cares. He has a deep caring for everything. He's totally like, I just want to see a picture of Ash with like a feminist pin, a Black Lives Matter shirt, like just everything, just like, and it just says, I care.
I just want to make friends. And I love that, though. I love how innocent that concept is. I battled to make friends. Like, with Pokemon, with people, like, I love the simplicity of it. You know, and at the end of the day, he's 10. And that's some big, wonderful things to come out of a 10-year-old. You know, even a fictional character. Like, I think that's great. Like, if more 10-year-olds were like Ash and less dicks, like, we'd be in a good place.
If more people were, well, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, if more 10-year-olds were, for sure.
I mean, come on, we all grew up to be assholes. Let them at least be good when they're
If more adults were like Ash, we might be in trouble. But if more 10-year-olds were, we'd be in good shape, because then they could grow up and become smarter.
Become assholes like us, yeah.
No, anyway.
Anyway. So, you know, Cross is sitting there bitching, and they decide to have a little fist fight, and Cross knocks Ash to the ground, takes the rainbow wing. The wing immediately turns black, because Cross is a douchebag, and decides to put it on the rock. And everyone's like, holy fuck. So, like, the sky just turns fucking black, like the world is ending, and, like, Marshadow decides to come up, and Bonji's like, oh, Marshadow's just here to... Bonji says a lot of ass-backward things about Marshadow that don't make sense. He'll say one thing, and then he'll say another thing. And so, like, we don't know if Marshadow is good or bad. I don't know if it's, like, the shitty translation from the Japanese to the English, or if it's just, like, they just kind of rush the ending in the writing itself, and, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
again, I don't think it's either. I think it's a force of nature.
I mean, that's an interesting concept, too. But anyway, so Bonji, he said Marshadow's job is to take the black rainbow wing, seal it up, and make it right. Okay, so that makes Marshadow look like a decent Pokemon. And then all of a sudden Marshadow goes fucking crazy because Cross decides to try to battle with it and starts possessing Lycanroc and other Pokemon. And then Bonji's like, oh shit, now it's trying to tear people and Pokemon apart. So, like, I'm like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it just pissed off? I don't know. So this battle scene progresses. It's not nearly as epic as the first Pokemon movie, let's be honest. You know, it's just a bunch of possessed Pokemon fighting, you know, our characters.
Well, let me ask you something real quick. What would Batman do if Batman was trying to get the nuclear bomb out of Gotham and the Riddler came up and started like, nah, we gotta fight. Yeah, we're gonna fight, Batman. He'd beat the shit out of the Riddler and get the fucking nuke out of Gotham. Like, I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do. Again, I more stand by it's a force of nature, and its will doesn't always line up with ours. It's good to us that he is restoring the color of the rainbow and the balance of nature, and it's bad to us that he's trying to kill us by possessing Pokemon, but to him, he's just a naturally living, occurring creature, you know?
Right, and at the same time, too, Bonji states that Marshadow is getting its power from the wing itself. So, is it abusing the power? Is it trying to protect something? Does it see everyone as, like, a bad thing because they're fighting? You know, like, there's just, I don't know. There's just a lot of shit that doesn't add up with me. So, anyway, my main thing is, like, questioning, like, Marshadow's motives and its purpose. Like, that's, like, I don't know. I just can't. I'm mainly upset with Marshadow for what it does to Ash. Like, let's be honest.
Well, stop personifying it. Are you upset at a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake or a volcano?
Yes.
Okay, then. All right, then. I guess that's all you.
So, you know, the battle's ensuing and all the Pokemon are fighting each other. And Lycanroc is possessed and it tries to attack Cross. Well, Charizard actually protects Cross from Lycanroc. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was amazing that, like, Charizard, like, stepped up and defended his trainer even though the guy was an ass. And I think that really changed things for Cross, like how he's probably just at that point started to rethink, maybe I am doing everything wrong. Maybe I should be not an asshole.
Yeah, and Sorrel said earlier, he was like, there's no way I'm going to let a Pokemon this loyal die or something like that.
Exactly. You know, and even after all that time, Charizard still defended its original trainer. And I love how they showed that. So basically what we have here is what I thought was going to be the typical Pikachu gets possessed, Ash tries to remind Pikachu of its trainer and blah, 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 everything's happy again. No, they decided to fuck with me and take it like 3 steps further than that. And like just beyond like what I was expecting, and another emotional roller coaster. So all of these big powerful Pokemon, you know, you got Nidoking, Nidoqueen, Graveler, like you have all these big tough Pokemon being taken over by Marshadow, and Marshadow is just, it's pissed off and it's trying to kill the trainers for whatever reason. And so they totally fuck with my head in this scene. So Pikachu and Marshadow start to battle, and Marshadow like punches Pikachu in the face, and Pikachu is like on the ground just not doing well at all. And Ash is like, oh my god, Pikachu, and goes to like try to make sure it's okay, and then, you know, they get attacked again and again and again. And,
so Ash and Pikachu are both just getting beaten to shit by this Marshadow. Yeah. And Pikachu's getting beat up, so Ash steps in, and are you fucking kidding me? He holds his arms out and yells, lecturing the possessed wild Pokemon about how he's Ash Ketchum from Pallet Town, and he's going to be the greatest Pokemon master. And are you fucking kidding me, Ash? You are a walking meme. And they both get, long story short, the shit beat out of them. Here we come, the most infamous scene of the movie, which, thanks to Facebook and, I don't know, I guess Pokemon fans just don't care about spoiling things unless they're in the game. This was entirely spoiled for me. Well, not entirely. I knew that Pikachu talked, and that was it. So the whole movie, I'm like, what's Pikachu going to sound like? What's he going to say? And what's my take on it going to be? So Ash is dying almost, just laying there like, yeah, dying actually, literally dying. And he's like, Pikachu, please, why won't you get in your Pokeball? And Pikachu goes, It's because I always want to be with you.
Meanwhile, I am fucking sobbing at this scene. Okay, and fuck BuzzFeed. Fuck anyone that didn't watch this movie and decided to watch just that one clip without any knowledge of this movie, anything having to do with this scene, and judging it. Here's my take on this, okay? So if you watch the fucking movie, I'm like deeply passionate about this, okay? I sparked some serious debates with people because they just didn't watch the movie and they took it out of context. The way I saw this scene was when Ash stood up to the Pokemon, he said word for word the exact same things he said when he was standing up to the Spearow on day 1 of their journey together. once again, Pikachu tries, and Ash says, get in your ball, you can be protected. Pikachu gets up on his shoulder, and this time is so weak that it falls, and Ash just takes Pikachu in his arms, and they get attacked. And they're both about to fucking die. And Ash asks Pikachu, like you said, the question, why won't you get in your Pokeball? In the moments just before Ash dies, he can finally understand Pikachu. Pikachu isn't talking English. It's not speaking English. Ash is envisioning this right before he dies. This is the moment that is showing the audience this is how Ash and Pikachu can understand each other. And it pisses me off that so many people just jumped in and was like, oh, that's fucking weird. No, you don't understand. You didn't watch the scene. You didn't watch the movie. This whole thing was built up to that moment. The whole movie is about their relationship.
All right. That's the benefit of the doubt that I will give this scene. I have to say I'm not a fan. And I did my best to go in with I'm not just going to hate it because everyone hates it. And I wish that I hadn't already had it spoiled for me, so I wouldn't already have this preconception in my head of what happened and how the fandom feels about it. Either way, I think I'm pretty good at just looking at things for what they are and not what people think about them. I loved The Amazing Spider-Man. And I don't like it. That is the benefit of the doubt I will give it, is what you said, is a Pokemon trainer they have this empathic connection with their Pokemon, but it's not like a syntactical telepathy. You can't hear actual words, maybe from a psychic Pokemon like an Alakazam or something, but it's not like that. Also, the benefit of the doubt, Ash was dying. So, he's having this transcendental moment, which, sure, regardless, the scene is just... Okay, I agree that it feels like a weird, dumb scene. It's weird and dumb to me to see Pikachu going, I'm Pikachu, and I'm talking. It's like...
If it said that, I'd be done too.
It's you shouldn't be doing that. Stop it. The uncanny valley. Besides that, it's just entirely unnecessary. There was no big, revelation in what Pikachu said. Oh, you always want to be with Ash? Well, we already knew that. You guys are, best friends. No duh. Jay and Silent Bob always want to be together. Mario and Luigi... Well, no, I guess Mario never hangs out with Luigi anymore. But, we get that. We already know that. And not only that, but what Pikachu said was just total BS. I just always want to be with you. That isn't the reason that Pikachu wouldn't go in his fucking Pokeball. You're telling me at the beginning when he was like, nah, fuck you, Ash. I ain't getting in that motherfucking Pokeball. Eat a dick, Ash. That he just really just wanted to be with Ash when he slapped the Pokeball back in Ash's face. You're telling me the reason Professor Oak couldn't get Pikachu in a Pokeball was because he just always wanted to be with Ash?
Okay,
I want to be with you.
I can understand that perspective, but maybe over time that's how Pikachu felt. Maybe it was comfortable enough to be in the ball, and then it was no, I always want to be with this trainer. But
I would have loved if afterwards Ash was like, well, wait, that doesn't make sense because you didn't get in your Pokeball when you hated me either. And Pikachu's like, damn it, Ash, take it for what?
So, side note, I do actually have the Tumblr post from the voice actress who did Pikachu's voice for this scene, okay? And I'm going to read it to you. Her name is Kate Bristol. She says, "Hi guys, I am the voice actor who did Pikachu's English stuff. I think the literal circumstances under which Pikachu is speaking are up to interpretation. I saw it as something in Ash's mind, but it's up to anyone. And it's okay to think it's super weird. I sat in the theater with the rest of the cast while everyone shouted, 'What the fuck?' And I sat there laughing at how bizarre it all was, especially hearing my squeaky little voice coming out of it. Personally, I did my best to mimic Iku Uotani as she is the master. This part in Japanese is adorable. At the end of the day, Pokemon is a good time, and I sure as hell enjoyed being Pikachu for 0.5 seconds. I would love to see the Japanese version of it and hear the actual voice actress for Pikachu doing this scene. I would love to watch the Japanese version because she has always been Pikachu.
And yeah, I say she did a good job because she did sound like the original voice of Pikachu. I thought it was her, and I didn't think about the fact that, oh yeah, well, she doesn't speak English.
But yeah, I can understand where you're coming from as well. But if you look at it, because I watched this this movie as 7-year-old me. I watched this movie from as much as I could a childlike perspective, and that scene, I was literally sobbing, like sobbing even worse than the other scenes. And I can understand other people's perspectives on it too. Like, yes, like it's been 20 years, Pikachu shouldn't talk. But the way I see it, the way that they did it, and the attention they had was a good intention. I'm just pissed off that BuzzFeed had to fucking ruin it.
Yeah, everybody, really, like, thanks for spoiling it. Like, that movie was in theaters for, like, 3 days. Like, you guys couldn't, like, say something weird happens in the Pokemon movie. No spoilers. And, yeah, for real.
Well, if they didn't... Okay, here's the thing, too. They're also encouraging you to record movies in the theaters. What the fuck? Because I opened the article and I read it, and they actually recorded the scene.
Oh, BuzzFeed, they don't care. It was someone else that recorded. It was BuzzFeed. It was someone else that recorded the video, and they just linked to their video. BuzzFeed don't give a fuck, though. I just think
it's so frustrating. Like,
so the movie, I mean, we're pretty much at the end. Like,
right.
Ash and Pikachu meet in this weird dream world, and they run together, and it's like,
it's this beautiful piano piece, and
I love the piano rendition of the main theme in the end credits. So good.
It's amazing. And I love this scene as well because right after Pikachu speaks, Pikachu actually goes into its ball. And Ash protects Pikachu, takes the ball into his arms, and he dies. Like, that is beautiful. Like, he died protecting his Pokemon. And I think that's beautiful. I watched it 3 times to finally realize Pikachu can still hear Ash in the afterlife. Because Pikachu was acknowledging what Ash was saying from beyond. And I think that's amazing. And Pikachu, like that, just watching Pikachu holding Ash's hat and crying just really made it real that, like, oh my god, like, well, obviously I knew he was going to come back. Come on, it's fucking Pokemon. But, like, just watching that scene and then, you know, just, like, going back to the previous dream Ash had where there wasn't a world of Pokemon, he repeated the line, we used to run like this all the time, and he just started running, and he was in black and white, and everything else was color.
I want to pick apart that line, too, because, like, we used to run like this all the time. Well, then, just like I was talking about kind of last episode, time has to pass. Like, his Caterpie evolves to a Metapod to a Butterfree, his Charmander to a Charmeleon to a Charizard. He gets all the badges. There's no way that happened. Well, we don't know if he got all the badges in this movie, but there's no way that all happened in his first year of Pokemon training, right? But no, the director of the movie specifically says, quote unquote, that time does not pass, which is a weird concept in and of itself. Then how is there any sequential order to this movie? But Ash does not age throughout the movie. So what do you mean you always used to run like that? Granted, when you're 10 years old, a year feels like 10 years, but...
True. That's interesting. I never heard that. Never heard that before, but it just... The timeline fucks with you, yes. If you're trying to force it as much to be like the original as possible, you're going to fail epically because it's not like the original. It is its own thing. If you look at it as a separate piece, they did a pretty good job.
I gotta say, bringing Ash back to life in a movie about Ho-Oh makes a ton of more sense than doing it in a movie about Mewtwo, or didn't they do it in like 4 other movies?
Yeah, he died a few times.
Come on, you can only kill a character off so many times. It's just not interesting anymore.
I just love the way they showed it, though, because at the end of the day, it's really about that. They could have ended the movie with Ash and Pikachu hugging, and I would have been satisfied.
I mean, besides the fact that you're cheapening character deaths by killing them off so much, what if they did...
Ash is like the Kenny of Pokemon, let's be honest.
But what if they kept doing episodes of The Simpsons where Maggie shoots Mr. Burns? Eventually you'd be like, can I have a new episode of The Simpsons, guys? You've already done this story. You've already killed Ash. It's not interesting anymore.
I think they did very well the way they did it this time around. Like, honestly, it just was beautiful. You know, the way they embraced and everything was well again. But I just didn't like how they rushed the end of the movie. Because they're like, oh shit, wait, we still have to, like, talk about Ho-Oh. So, like, Ash summons Ho-Oh, and then, like, the last 5 minutes is literally them having a battle. They show, like, 2 moves being thrown. And then the next scene, they're in the Pokemon Center. And I love it. I love Nurse Joy's line in this. She's like, who did you battle? And Ash is like, Ho-Oh. And she's like, that's nice. And she's like, wait, what? Like, it's funny. Like, I love that line.
So, yeah, we don't know whether or not Ash actually caught Ho-Oh.
I don't think he did. I think they lost horribly.
I don't either. It's fucking Ash.
They just rushed it. And, that, I don't know.
But no, I appreciate, though, that they didn't show us whether or not he caught Ho-Oh. I think that would be the best way to do it, rather than showing him catch Ho-Oh or not catching Ho-Oh.
Right. And honestly, I don't know. The movie, the way it ends is Ash and his friends part ways. He's like, I'm going my own way. Him and Pikachu continue on their journey. And I like it because they show little snippets from each of the movies in the end cutscenes as well. And the end credits show all of Ash's companions. Brock, Misty, May, Max, Serena, Clement, Bonnie. They show all of their companions, and I like that. And they all kind of look sad, too, at the end, in the end credits. They're like, oh, you forgot about me, whatever. Oh, goodness.
So, my final verdict on this movie. All in all, it was visually stunning, which presents a much more Pokemon-like version of the Pokemon anime, and makes me wistful to go on my own Pokemon journey. Reminds me of those times in middle school when Ash's journey was new. And I would imagine that it was so much more epic and beautiful than they showed us in the anime or the game. And those were the positive points. I don't think as a film it's that great. I don't think a lot of the Pokemon movies are that great just as a film in their own right. Granted, they're not intended to be. They're intended to be enjoyed by people already immersed in Pokemon fandom. It's a little frustrating that, just like in Origins, which you still haven't watched, they pigeonhole Mega Evolutions into Pokemon Origins, even though it's supposed to be a retelling of the Gen 1 games. And that's because Mega Evolutions were what was going on, what they were promoting at that point in their series. So these movies are so tied in with their marketing that it was Gen 1 nostalgic because of the 20-year anniversary. The story was rooted in Gen 2 legendaries, and a lot of it took place in Johto because of Pokemon Go doing Gen 2 and Gold and Silver coming out in the virtual console. It has Marshadow in it because he's the new super legendary thing. Marshadow didn't necessarily belong in it, but it didn't ruin the movie. They still crafted a story with it, so I'm not mad at it. But
I wish they just would have cleared up a little bit more of its purpose for me. That's my main argument with Marshadow.
Sure, that's true. That too. I don't know. I also thought throwing in all the other generation Pokemon kind of muddied it, if we're supposed to be sending us back to the days of Red and Blue. But at the same time, I kind of appreciated that people had different Pokemon because those Pokemon obviously existed at that time period, you know? They just hadn't been created by the creators of the game yet. But in canon, they still existed over in Sinnoh and Unova and Alola. So I don't know. I wasn't entirely stoked on it as a movie, but I did have a lot of fun watching it, especially the first half. And the second half, not as much, but it was still cool.
I'd have to agree. The first half was definitely a lot better written than the last of it. The last of it just felt very clumped together. And, they had, the three big emotional scenes in there, but it just...
But the first half is also the laziest half of the movie because a lot of it's just retreading. Hey, remember this? Remember Butterfree? Oh, I remember Butterfree.
Member berries. Oh, good times.
Member berries in Hoenn? I remember berries. So, oh man. Wow, if you can't, I hope it's not showing how tired my voice is, but we've been recording for a while, longer than the movie itself.
I'm sorry, guys. I am super passionate about this.
That's okay. We took one or two. No, it's fine.
Took a few roads off to the side. But the best way for you to truly figure out what you feel about it is to watch it yourself.
Well, I would hope you've already watched it. I hope so. Yeah,
just spoiled the fuck out of it for you. Sorry.
We should close this podcast out before both of us pass out from talking exhaustion. But please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We love keeping these lines of communication open. We want to hear who your Pokemon team is, what town you come from, who are you? We want to know, and we want to share it with our listeners. So send in your Pokemon teams. We've been reading them on the show lately, and it's a lot of fun. Let us be a part of your Pokemon journey. Find us on Facebook at Silph Radio Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Fairpoint Pod. That's because our other podcast is called Fairpoint Podcast. And find everything at www.secretroommultimedia. That's secretroommultimedia.com.
Be sure to always listen to us because we always want to be with you.
We just always want to be with you. That's why we do it. Thank you so much for joining me again to talk at length about the coolest franchise on the planet. That was to you, not my listeners. I was thanking you, Briana.
Oh, thank you. And thank you guys for listening to me go on and on about what we are truly passionate about, the beautiful Pokemon universe.
And by you guys, she wasn't talking to the listeners. She was talking to me and my Pokemon team. Because I'm a Pokemon master. From the secret room,
I'm Briana Joy.
And I'm Nathan Capisser. And one day, I'm going to be the greatest Pokemon trainer in the world.
You know, there's more important things than winning.
Cha.